couple of days ago, I released a video where I discussed some of the controversy surrounding the new variant and Criterion dungeon, the Merchant's Tale, and its reward structure. But there was something conspicuously lacking. There was no conversation about the fights themselves, no battle content review, as I usually do after a new raid release. That's because I was holding on to it for this one instead to act as a bit of a palate cleanser. Today's video is all about that, and I'm really happy that I get to say that this one is a whole lot more positive than the last one was. If you want to watch that other video to get a full picture of the discussion surrounding the new Criterion, I've left a link in the description below. Right, so before we hop in real quick, please do consider subscribing if you want to support conversations about FF14, because it genuinely does make a difference for me. I adored the Endwalker Criterion dungeons, all three of them. They were genuinely a breath of fresh air and something so special in the game's raid-based portfolio. Challenging 4-player content that takes the form of these small bite-sized battles that last 4 to 5 minutes, rather than the far less digestible 8 to 13 minute savage raids, making it both friendlier for newcomers to work towards beating, and it makes it nice for prog groups to drop in and drop out and see some immediate gain for their effort. The fights were fun as hell as well, all of them. I still strongly believe that they were some of the best things we received throughout Endwalker as an entire expansion. Fast-paced with genuinely unique mechanics that forced you to think in ways the game had never made you do before, and beating them felt so good. With Dawntrail's iteration, there was a whole lot to live up to, especially considering that we were getting only 1 instead of 3. It had to be great. So I'm pleased to say that from a battle perspective, they hit the nail on the head. The Merchant's Tale and its Criterion version, another Merchant's Tale, has some of the best Criterion fights we've gotten yet, and all of them are able to stand toe-to-toe with last expansion's offerings. It's up there for sure, and I had an absolute blast clearing all of them on the day of release. I genuinely wish that the entire reward controversy hadn't been such a thing, because it casts such a shadow over a new release that has been just as fun for me personally as both Heavyweight and Cruiserweight, which were my 2 favourite launches in Dawntrail by a country mile. Battle content this expansion has honestly been so good. I won't talk about Variant for very long, but we'll start with that one first. It includes 13 routes with a handful of variations to one another. Some are small, like a small decision that will change one of the mechanics in a boss later in the route, whereas others take you to an entirely different place and pits you against totally different foes. I ran each of the routes, and they're pretty fun. Mechanics are simple, but mostly telegraphed in new ways with fresh coats of paint. And whilst nothing remakes the wheel entirely, it's strong. The environment design itself is absolutely gorgeous, and there are a bunch of distinct locales, all crammed into this one single duty that just looks lovely. It's really solid stuff. But what I want to talk about far more, and the reason this video has the name it does, is the advanced difficulty. This sits between Variant and Criterion, which are roughly equivalent to normal dungeons and bite-sized savage raids. I would argue what we have here in Advanced is a low-commitment 4-man piece of content with slightly less difficulty and expectation than an Extreme Trial, placing it perfectly between normal modes and high-end content. It's a gateway difficulty, and it's genuinely fun to do. There are 3 bosses here, and you can tackle them in any order of your choice, allowing you to easily just progress which part you're currently at without the filler. For my pre-made group, the fights took 1 to 2 pulls to defeat a piece, but that was primarily because they're not punishing. They maintain a level of mechanical challenge, but they allow you to recover in between mechanics and keep a pull going, offering avenues for skill expression from those that are comfortable enough to do that. What's more, Advanced is clearable by anywhere between 2 and 4 players, so you can easily just duo it with a friend, or you could bring a handful of new people in to help them get their first time clear or farm it. These scalable encounters with different numbers of players are important, I think, because it allows social circles of different sizes, aside from the mandated 8-man full party, to have content, to sink their teeth into that might have a little more bite than normal modes. It's the exact level of difficulty that this game could use more of. Slightly easier than extreme difficulty and much shorter with a low level of punishment. There are big enough gaps to let people raise, and thanks to the variant actions, anybody can bring raises, heals, mitigations, and provokes, as well as powerful damage dealing abilities. There isn't much in the way of a mechanic that just forces an immediate wipe if performed poorly. Similarly, little there requires much group interaction because it's supposed to be clearable by a party of 2, so there's a big window of opportunity for follow the leader with less confident players. Despite all that, it's paced really well. My knee-jerk reaction is that a group of non-raiders would likely be able to clear in a lockout or two if they were solving all of the mechanics blind themselves. I think it's a reasonable statement to make that normal mode content is simple for practically any experienced player at this point, even if they don't dabble in raids much at all. But for many, Savage and Ultimate are a little too much. Some stop at extremes entirely, and others even forgo those. Advanced serves both of those player pools, giving them something extra to do that might offer them a test without ever feeling overwhelming. With some effort, they absolutely will prevail. Whilst I think Chaotic is tougher than Advanced and requires a much higher cost to entry, I feel that they both serve similar roles in FF14's endgame. They are gateway raids, harder than normal, but lower personal responsibility, time investment or challenge than pinnacle content. But despite that, they offer the same highs and positive feelings that those harder options do, and they might give people the raid bug. I'd love to see more content get these intermediary difficulties that bridge the gap between easy and hard content. So yeah, very happy to see the addition of Advanced. Please Square Enix, keep it up honestly, fantastic job. When it comes to Criterion, players will be familiar with this difficulty from Endwalker. Short 4 to 5 minute Savage raids with each player having access to 1 raise per fight. You need to clear all 3 fights in a fixed order before the instance timer runs out, or go again and hope you do better the next time. There's no Criterion Savage this time, and personally I don't miss it because I felt it was a somewhat lazy, unoriginal addition. It offered nothing different mechanically, just outputted more damage, had a slightly tighter check, and didn't allow raises. I wouldn't have minded them baking a flawless run into the achievement system to fulfill that same role, but they haven't done that, and I didn't really expect them to suddenly start using the achievement system for anything worthwhile, so it is what it is. What I do miss more than I expected, however, are the trash packs, which are totally absent from Criterion this time around. Now, it is entirely a boss rush. I think that's a bit of a shame now all is said and done. The trash packs between each boss weren't some kind of insane, intricate affair, but they did serve one very important purpose. They were the only threatening dungeon mobs in the entire game, and they acted to break up the pacing nicely whilst adding to overall runtime for little developer effort. I actually liked them quite a bit, and I strongly believe that they made for some memorable moments that are now gone. Each of the 3 fights tests a wildly different set of skills, and that variety is what makes the whole experience feel not only cohesive but well paced. It all feels like it plays out at breakneck speed. The encounters feel intentionally designed to push players out of any single comfort zone, with each fight emphasizing a specific theme and type of test. You have the first boss, centered on the ocean with animal parties that require good short-term memory to play back their forced dances step by step. Each aquatic animal does a different thing, and you need to remember the order they'll play their part as well as what they're going to do, bobbing and weaving around like synchronized swimmers. There are also a bunch of forced marches, which we've seen many times before, but they're implemented in a nice way. A good introductory encounter, but obviously it's by no means revolutionary. The second battle against the Swordmaster is both my most favourite and least favourite at the same time. This trades sea for sand and memory for a different skill set entirely. The core mechanic here are these little icons with 4 directional quarters. An attack from one of the 4 cardinal directions will fill that side with red, and if you're hit on a side that you already have red filled in, you die. So there's a lot of trading tethers and attacks back and forth between allies to make sure that you only get hit from the direction you can safely still take, and later on from watching hazards coming from both the Swordmaster themselves and the outside of the arena. This boss is fast, frenetic, and it toes the line perfectly between there being too much going on at once and being satisfying. It's just a really good, enjoyable execution fight. With that said, when I mentioned towing the line between it being fun and having too much going on, I have to note that it suffers terribly from a case of bad visual bloat. At times, by far the hardest thing to deal with is figuring out where on earth to look, because the arena itself is an indecipherable mess of arrows. They did a really bad job of telegraphing when considering the arena floor colour and the colour of the battle markers themselves. Like, look at this! It's a nightmare! Once you realise that the ground is just a complete trap and you need to figure out your ideal end spot from elsewhere, it becomes a lot more manageable, but overall it's just not very well implemented at all. The final boss is the Pario Plenty, and this one feels the most akin to what you'd expect from an 8-man Savage encounter, and it also has the most variety of the three as well. Lots of rotational puzzles and trio-style mechanics, as well as a couple of more intuitive reactionary mechanics here and there. But what's most important is that they are all fun as hell. They challenge your capability to maintain melee uptime, and they focus on working your brain over just being straight up tight DPS checks. The design freedom being 4-man with a shorter runtime provides to the developers cannot be understated, and they work with it to great success. Basically, it's bloody fantastic. This Criterion is awesome when you're in instance, and all of its issues stem from external problems. If you're on the fence, please do give it a shot for at least one clear. I promise that you'll have a good time, and I'd love to see another Criterion made in the future, rather than the category being totally dropped. If you're of the same mindset, please do consider going in for your one and done. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do consider supporting me on Patreon, or becoming a YouTube member like these fine folk. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.